in the heart of Jefferson City, Missouri, where the Missouri River hums its quiet lullaby. A girl named Emily Harper grew up invisible, born alongside her twin sister, Ava. On a stormy April night in 2005, Emily entered the world 3 minutes later, 3 minutes that seemed to define her place in her family. Her mother, Diane, would chuckle fondly. Ava wailed first, so I knew she'd be the firecracker. Those words, light as a breeze, cast a shadow over Emily's childhood, one she'd spent years trying to escape. From her earliest memories, Emily was the afterthought. Ava had a sunlit bedroom painted coral, with gauzy curtains and a canopy bed fit for a princess. Emily? She was relegated to the basement, a dim, musty space with concrete walls and a single flickering bulb. The air smelled of damp earth, and the creak of the wooden stairs was her nightly lullaby. It wasn't a room for a child, it was a storage nook. Barely made livable, family photos told the same story. Ava beaming in the center, Emily on the edge, half cropped out. At their 8th birthday, the backyard bloomed with streamers and a 3-tiered cake for Ava. Emily stood by the garden shed, clutching a paper plate with a crumbling slice. Overhearing a neighbor ask, "What about the other girl?" Diane's laugh was sharp. "Oh, Emily? She's shy. Doesn't care for parties." No one ever asked Emily what she cared for. School was her refuge. Emily devoured books, aced math tests, and ranked among the top in her class. At 12, she won a regional science fair with a model of a solar-powered water purifier. She raced home, prize ribbon in hand, heart pounding with hope. Her father, Greg, barely glanced up from his newspaper. "Nice work, kid, but look at Ava, she's got charisma. That's what opens doors." Emily's fingers tightened around the ribbon until it wrinkled. Ava joined dance, drama, and yearbook, her parents cheering at every recital. Camera flashing. Emily, if she joined anything, was the one stacking chairs after meetings. No one thought to invite Greg or Diane to see her. Ava's closet overflowed with new clothes, sparkly dresses for homecoming, cozy sweaters for Christmas, fresh Adidas for school. Emily wore hand-me-downs from a cousin in Kansas, faded tees 2 sizes too big, with logos for bands she'd never heard of. Once, at 10, she mustered the courage to ask Diane for new sneakers. Her mother's reply was flat, "You don't need them. You're not running marathons." The deepest cut came at 11. When Emily overheard Diane whisper to a friend behind the kitchen door, "Emily was the surprise we didn't expect." Emily's nails dug into her palms. But she didn't cry. She'd learned tears changed nothing. Every night, Emily ate quickly, cleared the table, and retreated to the basement. It wasn't that she hated her family, it was that staying upstairs felt like lingering at a party she wasn't invited to. At 13, she asked Diane softly, "Am I doing something wrong?" Diane didn't meet her eyes. "Don't stir up trouble, Emily." The message was clear. Her presence was a burden. The autumn of Emily's 15th year brought a storm that upended her world. It was a chilly October morning in 2020. The basement draftier than usual. When Diane's voice called down, unusually bright, "Emily, come up." Puzzled, Emily climbed the stairs to find Ava twirling in the dining room, hands on her stomach, laughing. "It's a baby. I'm gonna be a mom." Greg and Diane stood beside her, faces glowing like they'd won the lottery. Emily froze in the doorway as Diane turned to her. "Ava's pregnant. We're gonna be grandparents." Emily's mind reeled. Ava, her twin, only 15, was about to start a family. 3 weeks later, Emily trudged home from her shift at a local diner, hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup of lukewarm soup. Diane sat on the couch, her expression oddly serious. "Sit down, Emily," she said, patting the cushion. "With Ava's baby coming, we need to make space. The basement's too damp for a newborn. So we're moving Ava and the baby down there." Emily's stomach dropped. "But, I'm already in the basement." Diane's tone didn't waver. "You'll need to move out. The house is for Ava's new family." Emily let out a hollow laugh, thinking it was a cruel joke. But Diane's face was stone. "You're 15. Plenty of kids your age get jobs. Rent rooms. You're strong enough." Emily's voice cracked. "I have nowhere to go. From the kitchen, Greg piped up, "There's that old camping tent in the garage." "Still good." The words landed like a slap. Emily said nothing more. She knew arguing was futile. That night, she dragged a duffel bag to the backyard and pitched the tent on patchy grass. The ground was unforgiving, the air biting. Dew seeped through the canvas, chilling her to the bone. Emily curled up in a thrift store sleeping bag, the zipper broken, and listened to Ava's laughter drifting from the house. Inside, Diane and Greg planned nursery colors, soft mint green. They decided. Emily ate ramen heated over a camping stove, studied by flashlight, and kept going to school. At lunch, she hid in the library, warming canned chili in the microwave. No one asked if she was okay. No one noticed the girl in the tent. Winter crept in, the cold so fierce Emily's fingers numbed as she fumbled with her library microwave. One freezing afternoon in December, she lingered outside a bakery on Elm Street, the scent of warm bread and cinnamon pulling her in. Her stomach growled, loud and desperate. She stood there, hands stuffed in her jacket, just soaking in the warmth through the glass. "Hey, you need something?" a voice called. Emily jumped. A man in his 50s stood at the bakery's side door, apron dusted with flour, eyes kind but direct. He looked like he'd seen 1,000 hungry kids before. "I'm looking for a job," Emily said, her voice small but steady. The man nodded. "Name's Tom. I run Hearth and Grain. Need someone to scrub pans. Pack leftovers at closing. Pays modest, but I'll throw in dinner. You up for it?" Emily nodded so fast her scarf slipped. That night, she scrubbed burnt muffin tins, boxed croissants, and swept crumbs from the floor. Tom didn't talk much, but before she left, he handed her a paper sack, a warm baguette, 2 blueberry scones, and a carton of milk. "Eat it now," he said. "Fresh is best." Emily sat on the bakery's back steps, the bread's warmth seeping into her hands, her hunger easing for the first time in weeks. Emily showed up every evening at 4 p.m., never missing a shift. Tom started sharing bits of his life, how Hearth and Grain was his father's legacy, how he'd clawed his way back from debt after a bad business deal, how he never tossed good bread because he'd once slept in his car. One night, as Emily stacked paper bags, Tom asked, "Where you staying, Emily?" She hesitated, then mumbled, "A tent. In my parents' backyard." Tom's jaw tightened, his eyes glinting with something like anger. He didn't press further. 2 days later, after locking up, Tom handed her a rusty key. "Got a room upstairs. Used to be for storage. Now it's just boxes. It's got heat, lights. Yours if you want it." Emily's throat closed up. She stared at the key, then whispered, "I'll keep it tidy, promise." The room was cramped, a cot, a wobbly desk, a single window, but to Emily, it was a palace. No more wind-rattling canvas. No more frost on her breath. From then on, Emily's days found a rhythm. School by morning, bakery by afternoon, homework in her tiny room by night. Tom taught her to budget, to see money as a tool, not a dream or a demon. "Use it smart. It'll keep you safe," he said. His quiet nods when she balanced the till or wrapped loaves perfectly were enough to make her feel seen. Emily saved every paycheck, clipped coupons, bought day-old groceries. On weekends, she shoveled driveways or sorted stock at a nearby market. She wasn't the forgotten girl in the yard anymore. She was carving her own path, one determined step at a time. This was only the beginning. In the spring of 2026. At the age of 20, Emily Harper stood on the cracked sidewalk of a quiet street in Milford, Delaware, clutching a set of keys that felt heavier than their size. Her heart thumped as she approached a modest single-story brick house, its faded red door slightly ajar, as if welcoming her. This was no mansion, no sprawling porch, no manicured lawn, but to Emily, it was a kingdom, purchased with every cent she'd scraped together from years of scrubbing bakery pans, shoveling snow, and studying by the dim light of a second-hand lamp. This house was her triumph. It was proof that she, the girl once discarded, had built something no one could take away. The journey to this moment had been grueling. After moving into the attic room above Hearth and Grain at 15, Emily had thrown herself into survival. She worked mornings at the bakery, evenings at a local bookstore, and weekends taking online community college courses in business management. Every paycheck was split into envelopes. Rent to Tom for the attic. He insisted on a token $50 a month. Groceries, savings, and a tiny, emergency fund. She learned to stretch $1, buying dented cans of soup. Mending her own clothes with a needle and thread from the dollar store. Tom, her gruff but kind mentor, watched her hustle with a quiet pride. "You're tougher than most, kid," he'd say, slipping her an extra loaf of rye when she looked too thin. The house hunt began when Emily turned 19. She scoured listings, visited fixer-uppers with leaky roofs, and endured skeptical looks from realtors who saw a young woman in thrift store jeans and assumed she couldn't afford a thing. But Emily had saved $12, enough for a down payment. And her credit was spotless. When the bank approved her mortgage for the Milford house, $140 for 1.200 square feet of chipped paint and creaky floors, she called Tom from the parking lot. Voice shaking, he showed up that evening with a box of cinnamon rolls and a note. "Only time I'll cheer you leaving my bakery." Emily framed it and hung it on her bare living room wall. Moving in was a sacred ritual. Emily carried in a thrift store mattress, a wobbly table she'd sanded and repainted, and a $20 set of mismatched pots. The house smelled of old wood and possibility. She spent evenings patching drywall, watching YouTube tutorials to fix a dripping faucet, and painting the walls a soft ivory she mixed herself to save money. Each nail she hammered, each shelf she built, felt like a love letter to herself. Neighbors took notice. Mrs. Clara, a retired nurse next door, brought over zucchini bread and stories of her days as a single mom. Jamal, a high school senior across the street, helped Emily lug a second-hand couch up the steps. She thanked them with plates of Tom's day-old pastries but never invited anyone inside. This house was her sanctuary, a fortress against the past. That past came knocking one humid June evening. Emily was on her front stoop, sipping lemonade and watching fireflies, when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Emily, it's Mom," Diane's voice chirped, light as if they'd spoken yesterday. Emily's grip tightened on the glass. "We heard you got a house. We're so proud. Me, Dad, and Ava. We should visit. What do you think?" In the background, Ava's familiar laugh rang out, carefree as ever. Emily's chest didn't ache like it used to. "I'm busy," she said curtly and hung up. As the sunset painted her porch gold, she realized she no longer craved their approval. She had her own walls, her own light. Weeks later, on a muggy Saturday, Emily was mowing her tiny lawn when brakes squealed outside her gate. A silver minivan parked crookedly, and out stepped Greg, his hair grayer but his posture still rigid. Diane followed, clutching a tote bag, her smile too wide. Ava emerged next, pregnant again, her toddler and preschooler tumbling onto the grass. A man Emily didn't know, presumably Ava's husband, Ryan, surveyed the house like he was appraising it. Emily shut off the mower, wiped sweat from her brow, and faced them. "Emily," Diane called, too cheerful. "We were in the area. Hope you don't mind." Emily said nothing, her eyes flicking from Diane to Greg. "We heard you're doing well," Greg said, arms crossed. "Our girl, a homeowner. We're proud." Emily's voice was calm but sharp. "What do you want?" Diane's smile faltered. "Ava's struggling. Her apartment's too small, and with another baby coming. We thought, maybe we could all live here. Be a family again." Emily laughed, not bitter, just incredulous. "Family? You kicked me out at 15. I slept in a tent while you threw Ava a baby shower." Diane's tone hardened. "Don't dwell on old mistakes. You've got space now. We need you." Ava stepped forward, eyes flashing. "You're selfish, Emily. My kids need a home. Don't you care?" Emily met her gaze. "When I was freezing in that tent, did you care?" Ryan chimed in. "Let's be reasonable. Just a few months." Emily's voice was ice. "Get off my property. This is my line in the sand." Diane's face crumpled, but Greg just shook his head. "You'll regret this," he muttered as they left. Emily stood tall, heart racing but soul steady, as their van disappeared. 2 weeks later, a certified letter arrived from a law firm. Emily's hands shook as she read it. Greg and Diane were suing, claiming her house was family property, purchased with shared contributions. The audacity burned. This house was hers, born of dawn shifts at hearth and grain, nights studying in a freezing tent. Every sacrifice she'd made. She didn't cry. Instead, she called Lisa Carter, a no-nonsense attorney Tom had recommended years ago. Lisa, a tall woman with a sharp gaze, reviewed the claim and smirked. They've got nerve, but no case if you've got receipts. Emily had everything. Pay stubs, bank statements, mortgage records, even a photo a neighbor had snapped of her tent in the snow. Let's dig deeper, Lisa said. Your grandpa, Henry, he was the only one who ever looked out for you. Let's check his estate. 3 weeks later, Lisa summoned Emily to her office. A thick file sat on the desk. Brace yourself, Lisa said. Henry had left Emily a $65 trust, to be hers at 18. But within months of his death, Diane had drained it, funneling the money into Greg's failing car dealership, Ava's wedding, and Ryan's short-lived tech venture. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. They let me starve while spending my money. Lisa nodded. It's embezzlement. Henry's will was clear. You were to be protected if your parents failed you. He knew. Emily's anger was cold, precise. Can we fight them? Lisa slid a lawsuit draft across the desk. For inheritance theft and fraud? Oh, we'll bury them. Emily signed without a pause. The legal battle was brutal. Greg and Diane painted Emily as a greedy liar. But Lisa countered with ironclad evidence. Henry's will, bank records, even the tent photo, which made the judge's brow furrow. The hearing, in a stark Wilmington courtroom, was Emily's crucible. She wore a crisp blouse Tom had gifted her for her first bakery job, a talisman of her resilience. Greg and Diane sat across the room, avoiding her eyes. Their lawyer spun tales of family unity, but Lisa dismantled them with facts. When the judge ruled, ordering Greg and Diane to repay $65 plus $20 in damages, and barring them from Emily's property, the room felt still. Emily exhaled, the weight of years lifting. Outside, Lisa clapped her shoulder. You're free, Emily. Emily smiled, not for the money, but for the peace. After the verdict, the calls came. Diane's pleas, Ava's guilt trips, even a curt text from Greg. We need to talk. Emily blocked them all. She wrote a letter to herself that night, sealed in an old cigar box Henry had given her. You are not the leftover. You are the masterpiece they couldn't see. She didn't need to reread it. It was her closure. Emily returned to her life, baking at dawn, studying for her degree, and turning her house into a home. She started a weekend baking class for neighborhood kids, teaching them to knead dough and laugh freely, becoming the mentor she'd once needed. When a shy girl asked, "Does your family love your cookies?" Emily grinned. I've got a new family now, one that shows up. Her house, with its scuffed floors and hand-painted walls, was no longer just shelter. It was her legacy. Tom, now semi-retired, stopped by with coffee and his dry humor. This place smells like you won. Emily had. She'd fought, built, and redefined family, not as blood, but as those who stay through the storm. The girl in the tent was gone. In her place stood a woman writing her own story, one fearless chapter at a time.